Let's go to Ukraine because Kyiv says it's questioning two wounded soldiers that it claims are North Koreans taken prisoner while fighting for Moscow in Kursk region, which is currently occupied partly by Ukraine in a counter-offensive there as part of its hopeful negotiation strategy when it comes to peace talks. Well, President Zelensky has claimed they are these two men talking with Ukraine's security service. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Our guys from the Special Operations Forces, namely the Tactical Group number 84, as well as paratroopers, captured two soldiers from North Korea. They are alive and have already been brought to Kyiv. They were captured in the Kursk region, and it was not easy.
Let's go straight to Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent in Kyiv. Gulliver, good to talk to you this evening. Just give us some update on the context of what's known and what isn't known, I guess, on these two men.
Well, you know, these aren't the first North Korean soldiers that Ukraine claims to have captured, but they're the first ones that they managed to bring to Kyiv before they died. Other ones died of their injuries. These two have been brought to Kyiv, and the Ukrainian authorities have published photos of them. I think that's because they very much want to say that they are adhering to the Geneva Conventions, treating them humanely. So you see in these photos that the men are in a cell that looks clean. There's just the two of them there. They've got bandages on their wounds that also look clean. One of them has got a wounded arm and had papers on him, which are not North Korean papers. They're Russian papers, a Russian military ID document that is that of a Russian citizen born in 1998 in the far east of Russia, where many people have, appearances that could be comparable to North Koreans. The man says that he's not Russian at all. He doesn't speak a word of Russian according to the Ukrainian side. He claims that he was born in 2005 and was serving in the North Korean army since 2021. This would suggest that the Russians are not planning to admit that North Korean soldiers are really fighting alongside their troops. They're going to try to pass them off as Russians, however absurd that might be when they don't speak a word of the Russian language. The other man is wounded in the jaw, and therefore it's hard for him to speak, according to the Ukrainian authorities, but he's been answering questions, of course, via an interpreter, giving written answers. And he says that his circumstances are similar to the other guys, that he was told to pass himself off as a Russian. Both of them also apparently said that they were sent to Russia in early autumn for training exercise, and at no point were informed that they were actually going to be sent into battle in Kursk region until the very last minute. That reminds us, of course, of what the first Russian soldiers who were part of the original invading force in northern Ukraine in 2022 said. They also claimed to have believed that they were being sent on a training exercise.
That's very interesting. Gulliver, also, how much of a sense do you get of what's happening right now in Kursk, and how difficult it is to get information from there?
Well, I mean, you get anecdotal information from people that you speak to who know soldiers who are fighting there, who talk about very, very tough conditions on the Ukrainians, being sent on very, very difficult missions and not always having, kinds of things that they really need. If it's actually, just yesterday I was talking to somebody. I mean, this is anecdotal evidence. He was talking about somebody he knows. I didn't speak to the guy in question directly, but apparently that they weren't able to wash their clothes. They were getting covered in mud and weren't, being able to wash their clothes. It seems like the Ukrainians' resources are stretched thin in Kursk region, and the Russian counteroffensive has been quite successful so far. Since October, they have taken back more than half of the territory that the Ukrainians originally laid claim to back in August. But perhaps also because of difficulties in communication between the Russians and the North Koreans, at least that's what the Ukrainians think, the Russians are making quite a lot of mistakes, and sometimes the Ukrainians manage to claw back some territory, so there's a bit of back and forth. Then a week ago, the Ukrainian side launched a counteroffensive of its own, if you like, striking off in a northeasterly direction towards the city of Kursk and taking a little bit of territory that they hadn't taken before. But it seems that over a week they've made actually very little progress in that direction.
Gulliver, great to talk to you as always. Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent in Kyiv.